Hello everyone and welcome back to Linux Network. The Debian project has officially released Debian 13.6, the 6th point release in the Debian 13 Trixie series. Now, if you're new to Linux, you might be looking at that version number and thinking it's only a 6th update, surely it can be that important. But that's actually one of the biggest misconceptions about Debian. Unlike some Linux distributions that introduce major changes every few months, Debian takes a very different approach. Its focus has always been stability, reliability and security. Instead of constantly redesigning the desktop or introducing flashy new features, Debian spends a tremendous amount of effort making sure that everything simply works and keeps working. That's exactly what Debian 13.6 is all about. This release doesn't introduce a brand new desktop environment or revolutionary features. Instead, it delivers something that many Linux users value even more, a system that's safer, more stable and more reliable than before. According to the Debian developers, Debian 13.6 includes an impressive 124 bug fixes and 120 security updates across a wide range of software packages. Those numbers sound impressive, but what do they actually mean for everyday users? Are these just minor fixes hidden away in the background, or do they solve problems that could affect your own system? That's exactly what we're going to explore in today's video. We'll take a closer look at the most important bug fixes, explain some of the security improvements in plain English, cover the updated installation images, and discuss why releases like this continues to make Debian one of the most trusted Linux distributions in the world. And even if you don't personally use Debian, I think you'll still find this video interesting. As you'll see later, Debian serves as the foundation for many other Linux distributions, which means improvements made here often benefit a much larger part of the Linux ecosystem. So grab your favorite drink, sit back and let's dive into everything that's new in Debian 13.6. Before we dive into the individual fixes and security updates, let's answer one very important question. What exactly is Debian 13.6? If you've been using Windows for years, you might assume that every new version number means a major operating system upgrade. But that's not how Debian works. Debian 13.6 is what's known as a point release. Think of it as a service pack that combines all the improvements, bug fixes and security updates that have been released since the previous point release into a fresh installation image. In other words, Debian 13.6 is not a brand new version of Debian. It's still Debian 13 codenamed Trixie. If you're already running Debian 13.5 or even an earlier Debian 13 release, you don't need to download a new ISO or reinstall your operating system. A simple system update is all it takes. Just run sudo apt update and sudo apt full upgrade. Once the updates finish installing, your system will contain the exact same packages and fixes included in the new Debian 13.6 installation images. So why does Debian release these update ISOs at all? The answer is actually very simple. Imagine downloading the original Debian 13 installation image several months after it was first released. You install the operating system, everything looks good. But then the very first thing you have to do is download hundreds of megabytes or sometimes even several gigabytes of updates before your new installation is fully up to date. That's not exactly an ideal first experience. By releasing Debian 13.6, the Debian developers package all of those accumulated fixes directly into the installer. That means anyone performing a fresh installation starts with a much more current system right from the beginning. It saves time. It reduces the number of updates that need to be downloaded immediately after installation, and it ensures that even systems being installed without a fast internet connection are significantly closer to the latest available state. This approach has been one of Debian's strengths for many years. Instead of rushing out entirely new operating system versions every few months, Debian continuously improves the current stable release, making it more reliable over time while maintaining the stability that users expect. And Debian 13.6 is another perfect example of that philosophy in action. Now let's talk about those 124 bug fixes. At first glance, that number sounds impressive, but it doesn't really tell us much. After all, what exactly was fixed? Did Debian developers simply correct a few spelling mistakes, or were these fixes actually important? The answer is definitely the second one. When you look through the official release notes, you'll quickly notice that these fixes cover virtually every part of the operating system. Some improve desktop applications, others make server software more reliable, while many address hardware compatibility and overall system stability. One great example is FWUPD. If you've never heard of it before, don't worry, Most Linux users interact with it without even realizing it. FWUPD is the utility responsible for updating firmware on supported hardware. That includes things like UEFI firmware, Thunderbolt controllers, docking stations, and even firmware for certain peripherals. In Debian 13.6, FWPD receives several important improvements. The update enhances support for the upcoming Secure Boot certification transition, fixes issues affecting firmware deployment on some Thunderbolt devices, improves UEFI database handling, and expands hardware compatibility. For the average user, this simply means firmware updates should be more reliable and work correctly on a wider range of hardware. Another interesting example is Chrony, the service that keeps your computer's clock synchronized with internet time servers. That might not sound exciting, but accurate system time is incredibly important. Secure websites, encrypted connections, authentication systems, and scheduled tasks all depend on your system clock being correct. Debian 13.6 fixes problem with Chrony's network hook scripts, helping ensure the service behaves correctly when network connections come and go. It's a small fix, but one that contributes to the overall reliability of the operating system. Desktop users also benefit from several application-specific fixes. For example, AWStats, a popular web analytics tool, no longer freezes while processing certain keyword statistics. FreeCAD receives fixes for its Fanuc post-processor and resolves build issues affecting ARM64 systems. Meanwhile, Qt-Mir, the graphical framework used by the Lumiri desktop environment, fixes rendering issues, scaling problems, focus handling, session crashes, and improves compatibility with Wayland and Asahi Linux hardware. Even if you've never used these particular applications, that's actually the beauty of Debian. Thousands of packages are maintained as part of the distribution, and every point release improves a little bit of everything. Some fixes target desktop users, others help developers, others improve servers, others make virtualization platforms more reliable. And together, all of these individual improvements create a noticeably more polished operating system. There's another category of fixes that's easy to overlook: compatibility. Software doesn't exist in isolation. Every package depends on libraries, drivers, firmware, and countless other components. As those components evolve, developers occasionally need to rebuild or adjust packages so everything continues working together correctly. That's why you'll also find update, packages, rebuilds, and compatibility fixes throughout Debian 13.6. They may not introduce new features, but they help ensure the entire operating system remains stable and consistent across thousands of different hardware configurations. This is one of the reasons Debian has earned such a strong reputation over the years. Instead of chasing headlines with flashy features every few months, the project spends an enormous amount of effort polishing the operating system, eliminating edge cases, fixing obscure bugs, and making sure millions of users can rely on their systems every single day. And that's exactly what a point release like Debian 13.6 is designed to do. While the 124 bug fixes improve stability and compatibility, Debian 13.6 also includes something that's arguably even more important: 120 security updates. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. My computers work just fine. Why should I care about security updates? The truth is, many security vulnerabilities don't cause any obvious symptoms. Your computer won't suddenly become slower, application won't necessarily crash, everything may appear to be working perfectly. But hidden beneath the surface, a vulnerability could allow an attacker to crash a service, read information they shouldn't have access to, or in some situations, even execute malicious code. That's why security updates are so important. Most of the time, they're fixing problems before they can be exploited on your system. Looking into Debian 13.6 release notes, you'll notice that the updates affect many of the software packages Linux users rely on every single day. Packages like Apache, curl, Python, Mesa, QEMU, Samba, Wireshark, Calibre, GIMP, Postfix, libxml2, and many others all receive important security updates. So let's briefly explain some of the terms you'll often hear in Linux security announcements. One of the most common is a buffer overflow. Imagine pouring water into a 1 liter bottle. If you keep pouring after it's full, the water spills everywhere. A buffer overflow is very similar. A program expects a certain amount of data, but if more data is written than the allocated memory can safely hold, it can corrupt nearby memory. In the worst case scenario, an attacker may be able to use that corruption to execute their own code. That's why Debian fixes buffer overflows whenever they're discovered. In Debian 13.6, packages such as Apache, libvn server, smartdns, Xfce utils, and several others receive fixes for this type of vulnerability. Another term you'll sometimes hear is use after free. Despite the unusual name, the concept is fairly simple. Programs constantly allocate and release memory while they run. A use after free bug happens when software accidentally continues using a piece of memory that has already been released. That memory may now contain completely different information, leading to crashes, unpredictable behavior, or even creating opportunities for attackers to exploit the program. Debian 13.6 addresses several vulnerabilities of this kind, including fixes in widely used software like Apache and curl. You may also notice reference to denial of service, often shortened to DOS. This doesn't usually mean someone is stealing your files. Instead, the goal is to make a program or service stop working by overwhelming it or triggering a condition that causes it to crash or become unresponsive. For servers, that can mean website becoming unavailable. For desktop application, it often means a program unexpectedly freezing or closing. Debian 13.6 includes DOS-related fixes across a wide range of packages, helping improve the overall resilience of the operating system. There are also fixes for issues such as path traversal, where software could accidentally allow access to file outside the intended directory, cross-site scripting, commonly known as Xfce, which primarily affects web applications, and server-side request forgery, or SSRF, where vulnerable software can sometimes be tricked into making unexpected network requests on behalf of an attacker. These are all well-known vulnerability classes that developers work hard to eliminate whenever they're discovered. One thing I really like about Debian is that these security updates aren't limited to one specific area of the operating system. They're spread across desktop software, server applications, programming libraries, development tools, networking utilities, virtualization software, graphics components, and even firmware update tools. That broad approach is one of the reasons Debian has built such a strong reputation in enterprise environments, universities, research labs, and production servers around the world. For most home users, applying these updates is incredibly simple. If you're already running Debian 13, you don't need to reinstall anything, just update your package list, upgrade your installed packages, and you'll receive all of these security improvements automatically. It's one of those maintenance tasks that only takes a few minutes, but it can make a significant difference to the long-term security and reliability of your system. Now that we've covered the bug fixes and security improvements, let's take a look at what you'll actually get if you download 13.6 today. As we discussed earlier, Debian 13.6 is primarily a refreshed installation release. That means the installation images now include all of the accumulated fixes that have been released since Debian 13.5, allowing new users to start with a much more up-to-date system right out of the box. And that's a bigger advantage than it might sound. Instead of installing Debian and immediately downloading hundreds of updates, you'll spend less time updating and more time actually using your computer. It's a smoother experience for new users, system administrators deploying multiple machines, and anyone installing Debian on slower internet connections. The updated installation images are available for all of Debian supported architectures, so whether you're installing Debian on a modern desktop PC, a laptop, a workstation, a server, or compatible ARM hardware, you'll be starting from the latest point release. If you prefer using Debian live images, those have also been refreshed. That means you can boot Debian directly from a USB drive, try it without installing anything, or use the live environment for troubleshooting and recovery. And just like before, Debian gives you plenty of choice when it comes to desktop environments. The refreshed Live ISO includes several popular desktop options including GNOME 48, KDE Plasma 6.3.6, Xfce 4.20, Cinnamon, Mate, LXQT, LXDE, and even a standard image without a graphical desktop for users who want to build their own environment from scratch. That's one of the things I've always appreciated about Debian. Rather than telling users which desktop they should use, Debian simply gives you the freedom to choose the environment that best fits your workflow. Whether you prefer the modern look and simplicity of GNOME, the highly customizable experience offered by KDE Plasma, the lightweight performance of Xfce, or something even more minimal, Debian has an official option ready for you. There is also an interesting addition for younger users and educational environments. The Debian Junior edition now ships with the lightweight IceWM window manager. If you've never heard of Debian Junior, it's essentially a Debian project that provides software aimed at children, schools, and educational use. By pairing it with IceWM, developers can offer a desktop environment that uses very little system memory, making it a practical choice for older computers that still have plenty of life left in them. It's another example of Debian's philosophy. Instead of focusing only on the latest and most powerful hardware, Debian continues to support an incredibly wide range of systems, from older PCs to modern workstations and enterprise servers. And that's one of the reasons Debian has remained relevant for so many years. No matter what kind of hardware you're running, there is a very good chance Debian will run on it as well. One thing that's easy to forget is that Debian isn't just another Linux distribution. In many ways, Debian is one of the foundations of the Linux ecosystem itself. Even if you've never installed Debian, there is a very good chance you've used software that exists because of it. Take Ubuntu for example. Ubuntu is built on Debian. Every time Canonical prepares a new Ubuntu release, it starts with packages that come directly from Debian's repositories before adding its own changes, testing and features. But the story doesn't stop there. Linux Mint is based on Ubuntu, which means it's indirectly based on Debian. MX Linux also based on Debian. Kali Linux built on Debian. Peppermint OS, Antix, Parrot OS, and many other distributions all rely on Debian as their foundation. That's an incredible amount of responsibility when Debian developers fix bugs, improve package quality, update software, or patch security vulnerabilities. Those improvements don't stay inside Debian forever. Over time, many of them make their way into other Linux distributions that millions of people use every single day. In other words, when Debian becomes better, a large part of the Linux ecosystem becomes better too. That's one of the reasons Debian has earned so much respect over the years. The project isn't trying to be the flashiest Linux distribution. It isn't chasing headlines with dramatic redesigns every 6 months. Instead, Debian focuses on something that's much harder to achieve: consistency, reliability, predictability. Those quality may not generate exciting YouTube thumbnails, but that is exactly what system administrators, developers, businesses, universities, research institutions, and countless home users depend on every day. Think about it for a moment. Some of the world's largest servers, cloud platforms, scientific research environments, educational institutions, and enterprise infrastructures all rely on Debian or software that originated in the Debian ecosystem. That level of trust isn't built overnight. It's the result of decades of careful engineering, rigorous testing, and one of the largest volunteer open source communities in the world. And that's really what Debian 13.6 represents. It's not about introducing flashy features that everyone will talk about for a week. It's about quietly improving thousands of small details that make the operating system more dependable for millions of users. Most people won't notice these improvements individually. They'll simply notice that their system continues to work, applications remain stable, updates install without surprises, and everything feels as reliable as it did yesterday. Ironically, that's often the greatest compliment an operating system can receive. When everything just works, people rarely think about the enormous amount of effort that made that possible. Debian has been delivering that experience for more than 3 decades, and Debian 13.6 is another reminder of why it continues to be one of the most respected names in open source software. So, after everything we've covered today, the big question is, should you update to Debian 13.6? The answer is simple, absolutely. If you're already running Debian 13 Trixie, you don't need to reinstall your operating system or download a new ISO image. Simply update your system through the package manager and you'll receive all of the bug fixes and security improvements we've discussed today. It's a quick update that improves the stability, reliability and security of your system without changing the overall Debian experience that users know and trust. On the other hand, if you're planning to install Debian for the first time, then Debian 13.6 is definitely the version you should download. The updated installation images already include months of accumulated fixes, which means you'll spend less time downloading updates after installation and more time actually exploring your new Linux system. And that's really what makes Debian different. Some operating systems try to impress users by constantly introducing dramatic redesigns and flashy new features. Debian takes a different path. It focuses on stability, reliability, long-term maintenance, and careful testing before software reaches the stable release. That philosophy may not generate headlines every few months, but it's one of the biggest reasons why Debian continues to power everything from personal desktop to enterprise servers, research laboratories, universities, cloud infrastructure, and countless Linux distributions around the world. Debian 13.6 may not be the kind of release that completely changes your desktop overnight. Instead, it's the kind of release that quietly fixes problems before you ever encounter them. It strengthens security, improves compatibility, polishes thousands of small details, and makes an already excellent operating system even better. Sometimes the best updates are the ones you barely notice because everything simply works, and that's exactly what Debian has been delivering for decades. If you found this video helpful and you'd like to stay up to date with the latest Linux news, distribution releases, desktop environments updates and open source software, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a future video. And while you're at it, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. It really helps the channel reach more people who are interested in Linux and open source software. Before we wrap things up, I'd like to give a huge thank you to all of our channel members. Your support helps make this video possible and allows me to continue bringing you regular Linux news, tutorials and in-depth coverage of everything happening in the open source world. Your support truly means a lot and I sincerely appreciate every single one of you. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Linux Network and I'll see you in the next one.